My wife was in the emergency room, and the nurse asked me a question I still hear in my head. "Are you family?" I told her I was her husband. She looked down at the chart, then back at me. "That's strange," she said. "Her emergency contact has already been notified. It wasn't me. My name is Leon Hayes. I'm 43 years old, and I work as a senior claims adjuster for a commercial insurance company in St. Louis, Missouri. Most people think insurance is about paperwork. It is. But it is also about what happens after ordinary life breaks unexpectedly. A flooded basement, a fire in a restaurant kitchen, a collision at an intersection where someone believed they had the right of way. My job has taught me that there are always two versions of an emergency. There is the first version, what happened. Then there is the second version, who was called, who arrived, who signed the forms, and who had been quietly preparing for the possibility that something might go wrong. I never expected to become part of that second version in my own marriage. My wife's name was Mara. She was 41 and worked as an occupational therapist at a rehabilitation clinic in Clayton. She had a calmness that people trusted immediately. Patients liked her. Their families liked her. Even people who barely knew her seemed to feel better after 10 minutes in the same room. Mara remembered names. She asked follow-up questions. She carried extra granola bars in her purse because someone, somewhere, would always forget lunch. We had been married for 14 years, no children. Not because we had made a dramatic decision one way or another. Life had simply moved quickly. There were jobs, moves, a difficult year when my mother got sick, and then the strange, quiet realization that our marriage had become its own small world. A house in Webster Groves, a dog named Otis, Sunday dinners with Mara's sister, coffee on the porch when the weather was good. I thought it was enough. I thought we were enough. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon in October. I was at my desk reviewing an equipment damage claim when my phone rang from an unknown number. Normally, I let unfamiliar calls go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "Leon?" The voice belonged to Officer Miguel Alvarez. Miguel and I had known each other since high school. We were not close in the way people who talk every week are close, but we had stayed in touch. A message at Christmas, a conversation at a neighborhood fundraiser, the kind of friendship that survives because both people remember the other exists. "It's Miguel," he said. "I'm sorry to call you like this." I sat up. "What happened?" "Your wife was in a minor accident near the I-64 exit at Bellevue. She's conscious. She's being taken to St. Mary's for evaluation." For a second I could not understand the sentence. Not emotionally, logistically. Mara was supposed to be at work until 5. What kind of accident? "Another vehicle clipped her rear bumper while merging," Miguel said. "Her car spun into the shoulder barrier, airbags deployed. She was shaken up, but she was talking to us." "Is she hurt?" "I don't know the full medical picture, but she was alert when the ambulance left." I stood up. "I'm going there now." "Leon," Miguel said before I hung up, "drive carefully." I remember grabbing my keys. I remember telling my supervisor there had been an emergency. I remember walking through the office while people looked up from their screens with the polite concern people show when they know enough not to ask questions. What I do not remember is the drive. I remember red lights. I remember gripping the steering wheel. I remember thinking that Mara hated hospitals. When her father had surgery years earlier, she sat beside his bed for hours but refused to eat anything from the cafeteria. She said hospitals made time feel wrong. I kept imagining her alone under fluorescent lights, trying to look brave for strangers. At St. Mary's, I parked badly, not dangerously, just badly enough that I knew I would probably get a ticket and did not care. I ran through the sliding doors and found the admissions desk. "My wife was brought in after an accident," I said. "Mara Hayes." The receptionist typed her name. Then she looked at the screen. "Are you family?" I said. "I'm her husband." That was when she gave me the strange look, not suspicious, not hostile, just confused. "Her emergency contact has already been notified," she said. "He arrived about 20 minutes ago." I stared at her. "Who?" She turned the monitor slightly away from me, following whatever privacy rule she had been trained to follow. "I can't discuss the patient's information until I confirm your identity. I have my driver's license." She examined it, then checked the record again. Her expression changed, a little more uncertainty. "I'm sorry," she said. "The person listed as emergency contact is Daniel Brooks." "Daniel Brooks?" "Yes." "Who is he?" The receptionist paused. "I'm sorry, sir. I don't know. But I knew the name. Daniel Brooks was a physical therapist at the same rehabilitation clinic where Mara worked. I had met him twice, once at a holiday party, where he had shaken my hand and told me Mara was the heart of the whole place. The second time had been at a summer barbecue for clinic staff. He was tall, careful with words, the kind of man who listened closely when someone else was talking. He was married. At least, I believed he was. Mara had mentioned his wife, Elise, several times. They had a daughter in middle school. Daniel coached a youth soccer team on weekends. He was not supposed to be the person a hospital called when my wife had an accident. I asked where Mara was. The receptionist told me she had been taken to an exam area and that a nurse would speak with me soon. I turned toward the hallway, and there he was. Daniel stood near the vending machines, holding 2 paper cups of coffee. He looked exhausted. Not like a coworker who had rushed over after receiving bad news. Like someone who had been waiting beside a person he loved. When he saw me, he froze. The coffee cups tilted slightly in his hands. I walked toward him. "Daniel," I said. He swallowed. "Leon, what are you doing here?" He did not answer immediately. "I got a call," he said. "I know." His face tightened. "Mara is okay. She has a concussion protocol evaluation and they're checking her wrist," the doctor said. "How do you know what the doctor said?" Daniel looked toward the hallway, then back at me. "They spoke to me because I'm listed on the forms." "Why?" "I don't know." That was the first lie he told me directly. I knew it because it came too quickly. Not with anger, not with hesitation, with preparation. The way someone answers when he has already had time to decide which version of the truth is least dangerous. A nurse came out a few minutes later. She introduced herself as Carmen and asked whether I was Mr. Hayes. "Yes," I said. "Mara is stable," she told me. "She has some soreness in her wrist and shoulder, but the initial imaging does not show anything severe. The physician will talk to her about rest and follow-up care." I let out a breath I had not realized I was holding. Then Carmen looked at Daniel. "Mr. Brooks, if you want to wait in the family area, we'll update you if Mara asks for you." Daniel looked at me. I looked at him. "I'm her husband," I said. Carmen's eyes moved back to the chart in her hands. "Yes," she said carefully, "I understand." There was a silence in that hospital corridor that felt too large for 3 people standing under fluorescent lights. Then Carmen said, "Mr. Hayes, you can see her now." Mara was sitting upright in a curtained treatment area. Her hair was pulled back badly. There was a small bandage near her temple. Her left wrist was wrapped in a soft brace. When she saw me, relief crossed her face. Real relief. "Leon," I stepped closer. "You're okay?" "I'm okay," she said. "I'm sorry. I didn't want you to worry." I sat in the chair beside her bed. "You were in a car accident. Of course I worried." She started crying quietly. I was scared. I took her hand carefully. For a moment, I forgot everything else. The chart, the nurse, Daniel's face in the hallway. I saw only my wife, shaken and hurt, and some part of me still knew exactly how to respond. That is what makes betrayal difficult. Love does not disappear just because truth arrives. Mara squeezed my hand. "Daniel came?" she asked. I looked at her. Yes. Her eyes closed. Only for a second, but it was enough. "Why is he your emergency contact?" I asked. Mara opened her eyes again. Her expression had changed. Fear had replaced relief. "It's old," she said. "It must be an old form." "Old?" "I probably listed him once at work. Maybe when I started at the clinic. I forgot to update it." "Daniel knew your insurance details." Mara looked away. "What?" "He told the nurse about your evaluation. He knew what insurance you had. He knew you had a wrist issue last year." "He works at the clinic," she said quickly. "He knows things." Mara, her mouth closed. The doctor came in before she had to answer. He explained that she could likely go home that evening if she had someone to stay with her. He gave instructions about rest, headaches, dizziness, follow-up care, and when to seek additional help. I listened to every word. I asked the questions Mara usually asked when someone else was the patient. Daniel remained outside the curtain. I could see the shadow of his shoes beneath the gap. When the doctor left, Mara looked at me again. "Please don't do this here," she whispered. "Do what?" "Make this into something." I felt something inside me become very quiet. Not because I believed her, because I understood she was still trying to control the shape of what I knew. I stood up. "I'm glad you're okay," I said. Mara looked frightened. "Leon, I'm going to take you home when you're discharged." She nodded, tears moving down her face. Then I stepped out into the corridor. Daniel was still there. He had set both coffee cups on a nearby table. They were untouched. I looked at him. "I need you to leave," I said. He glanced toward Mara's curtain. "She may want. She has her husband here." Daniel's jaw tightened. "I didn't mean for this to happen like this." That sentence almost made me laugh, not because it was funny, because it was the first honest thing he had said. "You didn't mean for me to find out," I told him. He looked down. Then he picked up his coat and walked away. Mara was discharged 2 hours later. I signed the paperwork. I helped her into the passenger seat of my car. I drove slowly because she said the motion made her nauseated. Neither of us spoke much. The city moved past the windows in dark reflections, gas stations, traffic lights, storefronts closing for the night. At one red light, Mara said, "I was going to tell you." "When?" She did not answer. "At what point?" I asked. "After the emergency form? After the hotel trip? After he knew more about your insurance than I did?" Mara turned toward the window. "You don't understand." "Then explain it." She rested her head against the seat. "I felt alone," she said, "for a long time." I had expected that answer, not because it was untrue. I knew our marriage had been strained. My mother's illness had taken more from me than I admitted. I had become quieter, more tired, less present. There were nights when Mara spoke and I answered without really hearing her. There were weekends when I chose work emails over walks with her and called it responsibility. But knowing I had failed in some ways did not make this less painful. "I believe you felt alone," I said. Mara looked at me. "But you made a choice not to tell me how far away you were." She started crying again. "I didn't plan it." "Did you change the emergency contact?" She said nothing. "Mara." "Yes," she whispered. "When?" 2 weeks ago." The car became silent again. I kept both hands on the wheel. 2 weeks, not an old form. Not a workplace mistake, not something she forgot. A decision, a recent one, a deliberate one. She had changed the name of the person the hospital would call if her life went wrong, and she had not chosen me. When we got home, I walked Mara inside. Otis barked wildly, then pressed himself against her legs as if he knew something had happened. Mara sat on the couch with a blanket around her shoulders. I brought her water, medication as directed in the discharge instructions, and the small bowl she might need if she felt sick. I made sure her phone was charged. I called her sister, Natalie, and told her Mara had been in an accident and would need someone around the next day. I did not explain anything else. Not yet. I did those things because Mara was injured, not because the marriage was fine. There is a difference. At 11:20 that night, Mara fell asleep on the couch. I sat in the kitchen with the hospital discharge papers spread in front of me. Then I opened our shared travel email. I did not know why. Maybe because Daniel had said something in the hallway that stayed with me. He said he did not mean for this to happen like this. Not that nothing had happened. Not that Mara had made a mistake. Like this. Like an accident had caused the truth to surface too soon. I searched Mara's email confirmation folder. We had access to a shared household inbox for bills, travel bookings, pet appointments, and home repairs. Mara often forwarded confirmations there because she liked keeping everything in one place. Most of the messages were ordinary: airline promotions, a receipt for dog food, an electric bill. Then I found 2 travel confirmations filed under a folder called Clinic Conference. One was for Mara, the other was for Daniel Brooks. A 3-night stay in Asheville, North Carolina, a boutique hotel, 2 train tickets. The confirmation had been created 11 days earlier, one day after Mara changed her emergency contact. I looked at the dates. The trip was scheduled for the following month. Mara had told me she was attending a professional seminar in Kansas City. She had asked if I would mind staying home with Otis that weekend. I had said no. Of course I had said no. She told me it was important for her career. I had even said I was proud of her. I printed the confirmations. Then I placed them in a folder with the screenshots I had taken from the hospital patient portal after the nurse helped me register as Mara's spouse. The emergency contact change was visible there. 2 weeks ago, Daniel Brooks. I did not confront Mara that night. She was asleep, injured, and under medical instructions to rest. and I had learned something important over the years. A person who has been hiding a structure inside a wall will often try to tear it down quickly once they know you have found the opening. I needed to understand what I was looking at before I let her explain it away. The next morning, Natalie arrived at 9. Mara was awake but still sore. Natalie came in carrying coffee, a grocery bag, and the worried energy of a younger sister who had driven too fast without admitting it. "She's okay?" Natalie asked. "She'll be okay," I said. Mara looked at me from the couch. I knew she was afraid I would tell Natalie. I did not. Not because I was protecting Mara, because I did not want to turn a medical recovery into a public courtroom. I packed a small overnight bag. Mara watched me from the couch. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm going to stay somewhere else for a while." Her face changed. "Leon, please. I made sure Natalie is here. Your medications are on the counter. The follow-up appointment is in the calendar. You're leaving me?" "I'm leaving the house," I said. "You are safe." She began to cry. "I made a mistake. You made a series of choices. I don't love him." That sentence hurt in a way I did not expect. Not because it made things better, because it suggested she thought the amount of feeling involved might change the nature of what she had done. "You listed him as the person to call if something happened to you," I said. "You booked a trip with him. You told me you were going somewhere else." Mara looked down. I was confused. "You were organized," I said quietly. "There's a difference." Natalie looked between us. "Mara?" she said. Mara covered her face. For the first time, Natalie understood that the accident was not the only reason I was leaving. I picked up my bag, then I walked to the front door. Mara called my name. I stopped but did not turn around. "I'm glad you're alive," I said. "I'm glad you're going to recover." My hand rested on the doorknob. "But now I know who was beside you when you decided I no longer had a place in your life." Then I left. I stayed at a hotel near my office for 4 nights. Not a nice hotel. A clean one with gray carpet, an uncomfortable desk chair, and a window facing a parking lot. The first night, I slept 3 hours. The second, I slept 4. By the third night, I started making lists, not of what Mara had done, of what I needed: a separate bank account, a consultation with an attorney, a place where Otis could stay if Mara and I could not agree on the house, a conversation with my supervisor about temporary flexibility. When something in your life breaks, people assume the hardest part is the sadness. Sometimes it is. But often, the hardest part is realizing you must keep living while the sadness is happening. You still have to answer emails. You still have to buy groceries. You still have to decide whether you need detergent. 2 days later, I met with an attorney named Rachel Kim. She had a calm office in the Central West End and a way of listening that made it clear she had heard every possible version of "I never thought this would happen to me." I told her the facts: the changed emergency contact, the upcoming trip, the shared records, the deception. Rachel did not tell me what to feel. She told me what to protect. "Keep copies of everything you have legitimate access to," she said. "Do not access accounts you are not authorized to use. Do not confront the other man. And decide what outcome you want before you allow guilt or anger to make decisions for you." "What outcome should I want?" I asked. Rachel folded her hands. "That is the one part nobody else can answer." I thought about Mara in the hospital bed. I thought about her fear. I thought about the years we had built together. Then I thought about Daniel standing in the corridor, already knowing where Mara was, what insurance she had, and which doctor had spoken to her. "I want my life to be based on the truth," I said. Rachel nodded. "That's a reasonable place to start." Mara called me every day. At first I did not answer. Then I answered once. She sounded tired, smaller somehow. "Daniel ended it," she said. I was silent. "He said he couldn't deal with this," she continued. "He said he didn't want to hurt his family." I looked out the hotel window at the rain moving across the parking lot. "He didn't want to hurt his family after he got called to the hospital as your emergency contact?" Mara cried. "I know how it sounds." "I don't think you do," I said. She was quiet. Then she asked, "Are you coming home?" "No. Can we talk?" "Yes," I said. "When you're fully recovered enough to have an honest conversation." The trip to Asheville did not happen. Mara canceled it. Daniel's wife, Elise, eventually found out on her own. I did not contact her. I did not believe it was my place to deliver every piece of someone else's pain. especially when I did not know what information Daniel had already given her, but I also did not protect the lie. When Rachel's office requested financial disclosures as part of the separation process, the travel plans became part of the truth that could no longer be hidden. Mara and I met 6 weeks after the accident, not at our house, at a quiet coffee shop halfway between her apartment and my temporary rental. Her wrist had healed. The bruise near her temple was gone. She looked like herself. That was strange. It is strange when someone looks exactly like the person you loved after becoming someone you no longer understand. She held a coffee with both hands. "I've been in therapy," she said. I nodded. "I'm glad. I'm not asking you to forgive me today. Okay. I just need you to know that I understand what I did." I looked at her. "Do you?" She took a breath. I told myself I was choosing something because I felt invisible, but I was really avoiding the hard conversation. I wanted to feel wanted without having to admit I was unhappy. "That's more honest than before," I said. Tears filled her eyes. "I did love you. I know. That was the worst part. I believed she had loved me, and I believed she had also lied to me. Both things could be true. Love was not always protection. Sometimes it was just another thing people claimed while making choices that destroyed it." Mara looked down. "Is there any chance?" I had thought about that question every day for weeks. I had wanted a clear answer, a simple one. But nothing about the past 14 years was simple. "I don't know what the future looks like," I said. "But I know I cannot come back because you are sorry the truth came out." She nodded. "I understand. I need time. I need space. I need to know that whatever happens next is not built on another version of a story you think I can handle." Mara wiped her eyes. "I can do that. Then start by telling the truth even when it costs you something." We separated legally 3 months later. The house was sold the following spring. Mara moved into a smaller apartment closer to the clinic. I rented a townhouse near Forest Park, with a narrow backyard and enough room for Otis to chase squirrels with unreasonable confidence. We shared responsibility for him at first. Then Mara told me it was harder for her to see me every week. I understood, so Otis stayed with me. He was old by then, slower on the stairs, but still excited every morning as if the world had started again overnight. A year after the accident, I drove past St. Mary's Hospital on my way to work. The same entrance, the same sliding doors, the same curved driveway where ambulances came and went. For a moment I considered taking another route, then I didn't. I kept driving. Because the hospital was not where my marriage ended. It was where I stopped pretending I did not see what had already changed. Mara's accident had been minor. She healed. No one died. No one was permanently injured. But something in me had been injured long before that day. The accident only forced the truth into the open. And for a long time, I hated that. I hated the hallway, the form, the name on the chart, the question from the nurse. "Are you family?" Eventually, though, I understood something. Family is not only the name you write down when someone asks who should be called. It is the person you protect when no one is watching. The person you tell the truth before an emergency forces it out of you. The person you do not replace in secret while still asking them to carry the weight of your shared life. I did not get the life I thought I was protecting, but I got something more honest. And after enough time, honesty became a kind of peace.
Echoes pulse against the wall. No answer. No answer. Soft footsteps cross the quiet floor. A shadow stops beside the window. I trace your name in condensation. Glass vibrates with silent warnings. Lips taste yesterday's arguments. Still searching for familiar meaning. Questions I pocket but never ask. Paper folded, words unread. Brief shortens and late hours imagine I'm somewhere close. Mistakes painted onto morning skin. Regrets dissolve into bitter coffee. We're waiting for something different to begin. Unspoken, half-lit, unfinished story. You were impatient like perfume. Careful not to break routine. I try to read your subtle clues, but the message slips between my sheets. Unbroken patterns, heavy eyelids. I learn your silences, teach my own. Underneath the honest rhythm, I found reasons to postpone. Maps drawn in kitchen lamplight. Promises crumpled by restless hands. Tonight we hold our hope too tight, swaying gently as the distance expands. If one word could reopen the door, would you say it or stay silent? Some answers live within the pause. Some questions need the quiet.